Hello, everyone. This is Aprajita, a story scholar with the 1947 Partition Archive. I welcome you all to day 56 of our series, 75 Days of Partition. We are commemorating 75 years of partition. And it is important that the dialogue around partition continues so that we can all learn from our history and together make a way forward. We have been having erudite speakers talking to us every day about various issues related to partition. Today, please welcome Meghashree Dev. She has recently graduated from St. Stephen's College, University of Delhi, with a BA Honours degree in history. She has been a Citizen Historian Intern at the 1947 Partition Archive and has interviewed 38 partition witnesses. She has keen interest in collecting and documenting stories of marginalized voices and bring them to the mainstream. She is also intrigued by doing research regarding socio-political and gender issues. Today, she is going to speak about the Radcliffe Line in Bengal. Welcome, Meghashree. It is so good to have you here.
Thank you, Aprajita.
So, tell us more about your internship with the archive, your experiences, your research and findings, and what piqued your interest in partition to start with.
So, partition has been a part of my life since childhood, as my paternal grandfather had migrated from East Pakistan, and my grandmother used to tell stories about her life and experiences. But leaving the painful memories, she did not talk about the painful memories while narrating her experiences and her stories. However, in 2020, I for the first time understood the magnitude of the partition when I interviewed her as a citizen historian, and this time she did not censor her sufferings and painful memories. I've really enjoyed being a citizen historian intern as I was able to form a special connection with my interviewees, especially during the pandemic when everything was so bleak and we were striving for human connections. Their struggles, hardships, and experiences, both good and bad, have really impacted me and completely transformed the way in which I perceive the partition.
That's very good to know. So, also, you titled your talk as the permanent scar. Tell us what you mean by that. And as you know, the border on the Bengal side was quite porous and not like an iron curtain that was drawn on the west side. And this has also created a lot of issues regarding citizenship as well. So, what kind of ambivalence and difficulties existed there at the time of partition?
So, after hearing about the experiences of the several partition survivors, I always perceive the Radcliffe line as a permanent scar that won't heal and will always bleed India, Pakistan, and Bangladesh, both physically and by inducing trauma. My interviewees, especially those who have encountered violence and traumatic episodes, will always believe that the Radcliffe line had uprooted their lives and broken their dreams. The Radcliffe line had forced them to rebuild a new life in a new place where they were termed as refugees. One of my interviewee's granddaughter had also made a short film which she shared with me about the generational trauma that individuals who have experienced the partition and their family have to go through, and I was able to relate to that a lot.
Also, can you talk about the borderland at Bengal side?
Yeah, so in the as you said that the borderline was very porous, and it was made in a very haphazard and callous manner. So in a span of only 9 days, so there was a boundary commission, and all this I have actually prepared a presentation. So I would like to talk about all this in detail. So
Sure.
yeah. So while researching on this topic, I realized that India was partitioned in such an extremely haphazard and callous manner that the final award that Sir Radcliffe was about to give to India, that was the two dominions were to be formed, and India and Pakistan were to be India were to be partitioned. So the final award lay in the hands of Sir Radcliffe, who was hesitant to come to India in the first place because of the scorching heat of summer, and then showed a lack of interest in the task that was assigned to him. This is quite ironic since the United Kingdom is experiencing a heat wave right now, and London was hotter than Kolkata a few days ago. Boundary Commission. Next slide. Huh. So I've prepared a timeline. So as you can see, on 20th June 1947, the decision was made that Bengal was to be divided. So on 30th June, a boundary commission was established. So over there, it was appointed by Governor General Lord Mountbatten, and Sir Cyril Radcliffe was made the chairman of the commission. It is interesting to note that it comprised of two Muslims and two Hindu members. On mostly Bijon Kumar Mukherjee, C.C. Biswas, Abu Saleh Muhammad Akram, and S.A. Rahman. So, as you can see, the first session was held on, sorry, the first session was held on 18 July, and then the second session was held on 4th August uh, to 6th August 1947. So this meant that the final verdict rested in the hands of Sir Radcliffe, and the whole decision to divide Bengal was taken in a matter of 9 days with two sittings only. So in the next slide, I'm going to talk about the headlines of some newspapers. So, if you see carefully, the tone of the headlines differ from each other as they propagate the agenda of different political parties regarding the partition of Bengal. The Statesman, a British newspaper which seems to be unbiased, runs a headline that doesn't make a value judgment. The Amrita Bazar Patrika, a pro Congress newspaper, and the Star of India, a pro Muslim League newspaper, however, establish their stand explicitly. The Patrika reports the joining of non-Muslim majority areas with the Indian Union as a fateful decision, while the Star of India highlights the West Bengal had voted for partition. Okay. It is common knowledge that unlike Punjab, where there was a large scale ethnic cleansing and a full scale transfer of population in a few months, Bengal, with its unique demography and shared culture, saw less bloodshed, and refugee transfers were not sudden but stretched over a long period of time. I would like to play a short clip in which my grandmother narrates her experience of being a citizen, if I may use the term, of East Pakistan for a span of 3 days.
ওই যে বললাম যে 3 দিনে আমাদের মালদা ডিস্ট্রিক্ট পাকিস্তান হয়েছিল, কাজেই আমাদের খুব কষ্টে ভয়ে দিন কেটেছে। এক জায়গাতে সবাই মিলে সব মেয়েদেরকে জড়ো করে রাখতো, দিয়ে যে কখন কি হবে, কখন কি হবে, কখন যুদ্ধ লাগবে, এইসবের জন্য তখন আমি খুব ভয়ে ভয়ে ছিলাম। তখন তো আমি ছোট, তখন ক্লাস 2 এ পড়ি। তখন সেইটাই আমার খুব মনে আছে। আমাদের খুব কষ্টে দিন গেছে, কারো বাড়িতে রান্না হয়নি, কেউ খায়নি। আমরা সবাইকে এক জায়গাতে একটা বড় ঘরের মধ্যে রেখে দিয়েছে, বাড়িতে শুধু একটা করে একটা ছেলে থাকতো। কাজে সেই সময়টা আমাদের খুবই কষ্টে গেছে। ওই 3টা দিন মালদা পাকিস্তান হয়েছিল।
Oh, so this
Uh,
was in Bengali. It would be nice
yes.
if you could translate it for the audience.
Yeah, sure. So my grandmother is saying that for 3 days, Malda district was given to Pakistan. Therefore, they had to live in constant fear and had to face several difficulties. All the women were kept in a room, and a male member of the family was always present because of the fear that riots may break out anytime. One day, nobody cooked any food and they did not eat anything the whole day because they were so afraid of the situation. Those 3 days were very painful for her. She was in class 2 that time and remembers this incident vividly. Although not in this video clip, my grandmother also talked about how some of her friends were sent to Bihar, which is near her village, so that nothing happened to them if any violence ensued. So back to the presentation. Yeah, the next slide. Yeah. So, if you just to give you some context, if you look closely at the map of West Bengal, it resembles a crudely drawn swan with the head and beak represented by what is called the North Bengal and the base by Kolkata and the surrounding large districts. Malda sits right in the middle of the swan's throat, separating Bihar from Bangladesh. Had Malda been separated from India during partition, West Bengal would have been completely cut off from its picturesque northern parts, such as Darjeeling, Siliguri, and Kuch Bihar. It almost was. On August 12th, Viceroy Mountbatten announced that the country would be given its freedom. However, however, Bengal remained a contentious subject because, according to the recommendations of Radcliffe, several districts like Malda, Nodia, with large Hindu populations, were given to East Pakistan, now Bangladesh. The news of this division led to widespread protests in Nodia. Women observed a blackout by not lighting their stoves for 2 days. A complete blackout was observed throughout the district. When the word reached Mountbatten, he ordered Radcliffe to make changes to the map. As a result, 2 days later, Hindu majority subdivisions of Ranaghat and Krishnanagar were placed in India. The Pakistani flag at the Nodia Public Library was taken down, and the Indian tricolour was hoisted on 18th August 1947. The districts of Malda and Dinajpur, as you can see, were also similarly awarded to Pakistan on the eve of independence. However, later on August 18th, the Hindu majority subdivisions of Malda and Chachol were given to India as part of the Malda district, while the Muslim majority subdivision of Nawabganj was severed from erstwhile Malda and added to the Rajshahi district of East Bengal in Pakistan. My paternal grandfather had migrated with his 7 sisters and their family from Rajshahi district to Malda during this period and was 17 years old at that time.
I think
So,
this quote that you used about crudely drawn swan, it was first used by a travel writer, right? Bishwajot Ghosh, I think.
yes,
And in an
yes,
article, he wrote that, yeah, with the malda in the throat of the swan.
yes, yes, yes. And it's sometimes also called a chicken's neck because it's like it's very narrow, as you can see, and it can be a threat, like it can be a target of several terrorist organizations also, because as I said that if it's attacked, then the whole of the North Bengal is completely cut off. So that place
Yeah,
is very strategically positioned. So yeah, that's and as you said, I have sourced this thing from Bishwajit Ghosh's article.
yeah. And the borderland at Bangladesh is so fascinating because, it is, I think, the fifth largest border in the world, running for around 4,000 kilometers. And it is also one of the most segmented one with a lot of enclaves of one country, lying in the area of the another country. And in 2015, there was a land agreement that was done, and you must be knowing about that. And this Dahala Khagrabari was an Indian enclave, which was located at Bangladesh-India border, and it belonged to the district of Kuch Behar. But this piece was given to Bangladesh because this was a kind of a third order enclave, right? It was
Yeah.
kind of enclave of an enclave of an enclave, and this was given to Bangladesh as a part of LAC. And do you know about the also the India, Bangladesh passport that allowed lateral movements between the two countries, but it got discontinued in 2013?
Yes, yes. And also how the 1971 war also affected the border of Bangladesh and India when the refugees used to come. And during that time also my many of my paternal grandfather's family side had migrated. So during that time they had to face a lot of problems, and they had to migrate. Like they had encountered a lot of like, I don't know how to explain it, but in one of their experiences was that they had to cross a river, and sometimes they didn't get any food to eat, and then they had come to like Malda after I think 15 or 20 days, after not eating anything, not taking a bath, not like in very like bad state. So that is something that needs to be like, these
So
are
while
all the, yeah, yeah.
conducting all your interviews, did you face any kind of challenges?
So I was a citizen historian when I was during the pandemic. So I have conducted all the interviews online. So sometimes there were problems because not everyone is so tech savvy, or so they can like they can not operate a computer, or they don't have proper internet connections. So, and also finding um, partition witness survivors was a very, like, I don't know how to
That's a
explain it,
tough
but
job.
it's a
Yes, I can
very
understand.
like problematic thing, because many people say that like I have a lead, but I can't, like when I contact them they don't always like they don't want to speak sometimes due to various reasons. But in overall it was a very enriching experience, because as I said, during the pandemic I had online classes, and my like it was very depressing also, because every time I used to hear about the death toll and whatever was happening, especially during the second wave. So while listening to the partition witness survivors, by listening to their experiences, their sufferings, like I could somehow empathize. Like some experiences were so brutal, so horrific, that I sometimes like couldn't sleep at night. But they were like fine. But I can understand, I can empathize like how they have survived all these. So yeah, some
It's
of
really
these
good to
were,
know about your experiences, Meghashree. But also, you know that when it comes to talking about partition, Punjab has been at the center of it, right? Of all the
yes,
discussions, it has been a
yes,
kind of. So while Bengal has been quite sidelined, and or maybe just under discussed as we focus more on the western side, locating a museum there, giving more representation to the experiences of the people of Punjab. Why do you think that has been the case?
as I said earlier in this presentation also, that in Punjab what happened, the whole ethnic cleansing or the migration took place in a very short period of time, like, and however in Bengal it was stretched over a long period of time. So people, and there was not a lot of bloodshed as compared to Punjab. So therefore, but there is a very big trauma, like the mental trauma that Bengalis suffer, that has not been emphasized a lot. But in Punjab, so even in Bengal we are trying to bring about museums and other, like what we are doing right now, oral history. So I think through this, by archiving, by documenting their oral testimonies, we are trying to bring their voices to the mainstream dominant narratives. So that's why I was interested because, um, as I said, that like Malda was included in India on 18th August. So I didn't know about that earlier. Like in my school, the textbooks don't talk about all these stuff. So that's why. But after listening to personal experiences, like I even researched about some oral testimonies by other survivors, though I have not interviewed them. They were on the internet, I found. So they were also talking about how they had to migrate from Rajshahi in the span of 3 days, because suddenly it was in Pakistan and suddenly it was in India. So it caused a whole confusion. So that these are some experiences and testimonies which are not always brought in the mainstream dominant narratives. So I think that is why I was interested in becoming a citizen historian in the first place. So yeah, and I also wanted to talk about a village. Like I have sourced this information from various papers, like the Indian Express, the Times of India, the Scroll, and over here they say that a small village in Noida district called Shivni Bash, approximately 5 hours away from Kolkata. They have been celebrating Independence Day on 18th August since 1991. And also, there's a village called Rotua in the district of Malda, which is the which and the village of Balurghat in Dinajpur, which also have been celebrating their Independence Day after 15th August. So they annually wait every year. So after, like, they celebrate it after 15th August. So that is also something like interesting I found. And while researching, I also, like, I read Joya Chatterjee's work, The Spoils of Partition, Bengal and India, 1947 67. So over there, she remarks how one of the ironies of partition was how similar Radcliffe's borderlines were with those drawn by Curzon in his plans for partition in 1905. So that was like really for me, while Khulna was a Hindu majority district. But Murshidabad was placed in India, while Khulna was placed in Pakistan. So, as you can see, the religion, there's a discrepancy. There's a fallacy in the plan, because initially it should be according to the religious demarcation, right? But it happened along the like due to some political and socio-ecological motives. But that's why Murshidabad was placed in India, while Khulna was placed in Pakistan. So yeah, that's it.
Certainly, a
So these,
lot of reasons were playing behind the final award of the Radcliffe, and certainly
yeah,
you have also gained a lot of experience, and you have done a lot of research while with your time with the archive as a citizen historian.
yes,
Thank you for coming here today, Meghashree, and sharing all your findings. It has been an absolute delight to talk to you, and I wish you good
same here.
luck in your future endeavors.
Thank you. Same here.
Uh,
It was
for
lovely
those who are
talking to you.
For those who are watching, thank you for tuning in. We will meet tomorrow at the same time with more discussions. Until then, take care.